So let's go ahead and get started. I'm excited to introduce you all to Vered Kogan. And before I do her official introduction, let me just tell you guys a little story. And so you all know this thing called the pandemic of 2020 that we all were affected by in some crazy way. So March of 2020, I think it was like March 16th. It might have been March 13th. But March of 2020, we were at an event. We were hosting a Career Connectors event in Scottsdale. And less than half of the people showed up that normally show up for our events. And I looked over at Sheila and I said, we're done. We've got to shut it down. And Sheila was like, okay, but we're not shutting it down. She's like, we're figuring this out. And if any of you know Sheila, she is like our back end kind of, she does everything to run these events. And our next speaker on deck was Vered, and she was speaking at our Gilbert event coming up. And so, which was a face-to-face event in 2 weeks. So Sheila reached out to Vered and said, here's our issue. We can't meet, we can't meet. All our venues are shutting down and, the world is crazy. And, but we can't leave people. We can't not do this work. We can't, especially in this crazy time, no one knows what's going on. We've got to be a place. We've got to be a place of hope for people in our community. And Vered said, no problem. You figure out the technology, I'll figure out how to present. And so she turned like that. And I bet you we were probably the first networking group, career support program that got up and running. We did not miss one event, and Vered is the one that stepped up and did this. And so Vered, I am so grateful that you did that for us and that you did that for all the people that attend these events. And not only that, it was so crazy. Vered is the most calm person you've ever met. And so for her to be coming to talk about mindset in the middle of a humongous disaster and literal pandemic, it was ironic and cool and good. And it really helped people just kind of like, okay, we can take a deep breath and get their mind right. So thank you, Vered. So that's my story for her. She is phenomenal. I think you guys you're in for a real treat today. Transitions can be uncomfortable and stressful experience. However, they can also be a time of growth and possibility. I'm so excited to have Vered Kogan with us today to present the mindset game, a revolutionary concept that can help you master your mindset and emotional state during times of change. She will share how your choice of mindset can directly impact your resilience and health during this uncertain time. And you can expect to walk away with simple tools to help you feel more ease and get even better results. She's an executive high-performance coach, trainer of neuro-linguistic programming, certified heart math trainer, board certified hypnotherapist, and holds several other credentials. Over the past 18 years, she has helped hundreds of people adapt more effectively to change in her coaching practice, as well as at PricewaterhouseCoopers and at the world's largest outplacement firm, Lee Hecht Harrison. Vered is CEO and founder of the Momentum Institute, a leadership training and coaching company. Her message will connect with you on a personal and professional level so that you can master playing the mindset game. Welcome, Vered. Yay!
Thank you so much, Jessica, for that very warm and heartfelt introduction. And on a personal note, it's very meaningful for me to be here because I'll share a little bit about my story, but I clearly remember being in that place of being in career transition, and I will do my very best for all of you today. So, as Jessica said, our topic today is the mindset game, which is how to master your mindset to land your next job, but not just to land your next job, is to do it with ease, to do it with joy, and to do it as quickly as possible. So I want to start out with a quote. And it's a quote from the book, The Alchemist. Some of you may have read that book by Paulo Coelho. And the quote goes like this: when you want something, when you really want something, all the universe conspires to help you achieve it. When you want something, all the universe conspires to help you achieve it. I believe this is absolutely true from my work. I also know that it's true from research. And what I mean by that is that your heart is connected to something beyond time and space. You're going to learn a little bit of the science of that today. And when you learn how to collaborate with your mind, how to kind of manage your emotional state and collaborate with your mind, you're going to have access to your heart's intuitive guidance that will guide you onto the next right step and the next right step along your path, along the maze of your life, so that you can land your next job or achieve whatever it is that your heart desires personally or professionally with even more ease. And so what we're talking about today is really any change in your life. It's about how to adapt better to any change. And so one of the things that we all know now, and Jessica touched on it with this crazy pandemic, is that we can't avoid change. Whether it's career change or some other kind of change, change is inevitable in our world. You know, we live in a world of dichotomy, a world of polarity. And what that means is that there's always going to be some mixed energies. So we can't avoid change. Well, except when we're, using a vending machine. In that case, we may not see our change, but in all other cases, we really can't avoid change. So the big question is, are you ready? Are you prepared for the changes in your life? And when they show up, are you resilient to adapt? And you adapt by lessening the inner resistance to change, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Because most people during change experience a great deal of stress, because what does change presuppose? It presupposes some uncertainty. Yes, there's something new or different that we haven't faced before. And when the body is in a state of uncertainty, there is fear. And with fear, there is stress. And some of you might be experiencing some of that right now. Go ahead and kind of write in the chat box if some of this is resonating with you so far, that, stress brings on a certain level of stress in your life. Or maybe some of you are feeling really stuck right now. Like you don't even know what it is that you want or what's the next right step, or there's some mental or emotional block that might be getting in your way. And so what you're going to learn today is going to help you to create this collaboration, if you will, between what you want at a conscious level and what you believe about that at a deeper level. So your heart and your mind are working together. They're working in sync, because when that happens, you're not going to be able to feel as much of the stress. You're going to be able to self-regulate your emotions and manage that stress. You're going to be able to have access to your heart's guidance as to the best solutions to those blocks that you may be experiencing in your life. And it will be easier to adapt to any change in your life. And everything I'm sharing with you today, although the concepts may seem very, very simple, right? You can teach them to a 5-year-old. That's how simple they are. Yet they are deeply rooted in research. I'm a trainer with the Institute of Heart Math, and that is a research institution that studies the communication between your heart, and I mean the physical organ of your heart, I'm not speaking metaphorically, your actual heart, and your head brain. And what we know is that the communication between your heart and your head brain really matters during a transition. And that when you practice tools like the quick coherence technique, which I'm about to teach you, you will be more coherent during this transition and any transition in your life. And what that means is that you're going to be able to access the state of optimal performance, which is also the state of optimal health, where your immune system is working at its best, where you're able to really allow all of your body's functions to work together harmoniously as they're meant to do. So let's go ahead and dive right into the technique. Again, it's a very simple technique, but deeply researched, because there are over 450 published, peer-reviewed, independent research studies around the state of coherence and how it can help you to adapt with more ease through the maze of your life, through all of the challenges and problems and issues that you may be facing in your life. Now, before we begin the technique, I want to ask you, how are you feeling right now? I want you to go ahead and write in the chat. Just label it. Give it one word, maybe two. What is your state right now, the inner state? How are you feeling right now? You see, it's very important to label our emotions. When we label our emotions, first of all, it kind of takes the charge off of any distressing emotions. But in addition to that, it allows us to collaborate with our unconscious mind, to really hear our unconscious mind. I see words like calm, edgy, stuck, nervous about the future. Yeah, right. Notice kind of a blend of energy. And it's very normal to experience all kinds of emotions. I see overwhelmed, disillusioned, scattered. Right? So you can see how during a transition, some of those distressing or perplexing emotions might be even more elevated because there is uncertainty. The body doesn't feel safe. I see confused. That's another one that's very common during a transition because we don't yet have those programs in our brain about what to do, right? It's something new or different. So I really honor you for taking a moment to label how you are feeling. And when you do that multiple times a day, you're going to do a lot of service, a lot of good for your body. Because like I said, anytime you label your emotion, you're saying to your body, I hear you, I see you, I accept that this is what I'm feeling right now. And in the acceptance, we begin to allow our body to adapt to what is going on and to be able to access those thoughts and emotions that will allow us to do that. So the technique that you're about to learn will help you to feel better mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And it has 2 steps. I'm going to quickly describe them and then we'll do them together. The first step is what we call heart-focused breathing. And all you're going to do is you're going to focus your attention in your heart and you're going to do some pretending. You're going to imagine as if your breath is flowing in and out of your heart or chest area, kind of allowing a nice smooth rhythm. And then I'm going to guide you to activate a positive feeling. Any positive feeling will do, whether it's a feeling of ease or calm, whether it's a feeling of excitement, confidence, whatever feeling that might be, perhaps compassion for someone or something in your life, or even for yourself. And in doing so, you're going to allow your body to get into a nice synchronized state, and you're going to get a nice blend of hormones, of chemicals into your body that will actually make you feel better, make you more coherent. And we're going to learn a little bit more about what that means later in the presentation. So let's go ahead and begin. I invite you to go ahead and focus all of your attention now in the area of your heart. If you'd like, you can actually place your physical hand over your heart or chest area and just imagine as if your breath was flowing in and out of your heart or chest area. And as you do that, breathe a little slower and a little deeper than you normally do. You can do this with your eyes opened or closed, whatever feels comfortable for you. And keep doing that as I talk. What you're doing now is you're synchronizing your autonomic nervous system, that part of your body that runs all your body, all those things that you do without your conscious awareness. Yeah. Find a nice, easy rhythm that's comfortable. Now, as you continue to focus in your heart, make a sincere attempt to experience a regenerative, positive feeling, such as appreciation or care for someone or something in your life. So perhaps you can try to re-experience the feeling of love that you have for someone, maybe even a pet. Maybe focusing on an accomplishment in your life, maybe a happy memory, and maybe even a place in nature. Or just breathing in a feeling of calm and ease in and out of your heart. And just begin to notice any subtle shifts. Maybe in your body, maybe how you're feeling right now, maybe a perception or an attitude about something. And set an intention to anchor any positive shifts that you've experienced as you go about your day, as you go about the meetings and your conversations in the breakout room, and of course during this presentation, so that you can retain what I'm sharing with you and really apply it in your life. Because when you do, when you apply the very simple tools that you will be learning today, like the quick coherence technique, you will absolutely notice shifts in your life. And the first one will be a shift in how you feel, which will dictate everything else. So some of you might be wondering, let me get my clicker here. There we go. Some of you might be wondering, why are we starting a presentation on mindset, on the power of thought with emotions? Why not dive right into what are the best thoughts that I should think during a transition? And there's a very good reason for that. I know you know that how you feel dictates how you think, and how you think dictates how you feel. Yes, because your state really matters, right? You think completely different thoughts when you're in an empowered, confident state than you do when you are in an overwhelmed or confused state, or perhaps even a depressed state. Now, as we said, change can be really scary. Some of you use words like confusing, right? Being disillusioned, nervous, scared. And I remember very clearly feeling all of the above. Back in 2001, I was working at a job that I loved. And although I'd heard some rumors about a merger that was happening, didn't really think it would affect me until I got the call. I got a call from my boss, which went something like this. Hi, Vered. I'm so sorry to let you know that we have to let you go. Some of you may have heard words like that, similar to that, or perhaps it was your own choice to leave, or maybe you're just starting your career and you're experiencing some confusion and fear. But I immediately went into a place of despair, even though I kind of knew it was coming, right? So it wasn't like a complete shock, but for my body, it was a complete shock. I immediately thought, oh my goodness, what am I going to say to my husband? What am I going to say to my parents? There was an incredible amount of shame, even though I knew I really didn't do anything wrong per se. It was not performance related, but yet I dipped into that dark, dark place. And I stayed there for a while because I didn't know the tools that you are learning today. So some of you might really be resonating with this whole concept of the power of our emotions, and of course then the power of our thoughts. And what you're seeing here is a typical change curve. This is how people typically experience change. So what you're seeing is a graph of productivity over time. So in a situation like I experienced, right, there's some denial and shock and confusion, right? Is this really happening? It takes some time for the body to really absorb it. And then what do many of us do? We, in a state of stress, we kind of go outward, right? We focus externally, right? We start blaming everyone, right? It's his fault, her fault, their fault, the economy, the pandemic, right? Whatever it might be. And we get defensive, yeah? And of course, that never works, right? It never works. So what happens? Our productivity and our morale continue to dip. And it dips, and it dips, and it dips. Way, way, way low into when I worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers as a change management consultant. We called it the Valley of Despair. Some of you might be visiting the valley right now, but there is hope. There is hope. And so what happens is when the body experiences a certain amount of pain, then the body says no more. And we begin to be open to learning new ways of doing things, asking ourselves different questions. And you're going to get some of those tools today. And we find ourselves in a presentation like this, where we're open to learning about mindset, to exploring some other ways. And it is in doing so that we begin to accept the loss, because any change, even when it's a change that we welcome, a career change or any other change that we wanted, that we asked for, even in those cases, the body is still adapting to change. There is something different, right, from the old way and the new way. So it requires us to let go, and to let go of our old world before we can really plug into a new world. And when we do that, then we begin to allow ourselves to adapt to the change. And the more and more and more that we adapt, the more it becomes familiar, right? The unfamiliar becomes familiar. And with repetition, when we repeat certain thoughts and when we really imagine what it is that we want, we get clear about it, our body begins to feel more ease. And then eventually we begin to really accept the change and even get excited about the change. And some of you might be there right now. Maybe you're in a place of excitement. There are a whole blend of emotions that we experience during change. And so change can be very uncomfortable. It can be scary because it's new and different. So let's have you kind of experience that right now. I invite you, whether you're using the handout, there's kind of a spot for doing this in the handout, or even just a blank piece of paper that you have in front of you. I want you to go ahead and just sign your name in the usual way that you do. Just sign your name as if you're like a famous movie star, signing your name. Cool. Now move your pen or pencil to your other hand and go ahead and sign your name again, and really tune in to how that feels, maybe how it looks. Good. Now share with me. I'd love to hear, read in the chat. What did you just experience? What was that like for you? Some of you might be thinking, oh my God, that was completely uncomfortable, right? It was confusing. I didn't know how to do it. Oh my God, it looks like a 2-year-old signed my name, right? It's a complete mess. And the reason I invited you to do that is to really tune in to the emotions that we feel when we do anything that's new or different. And the reason that it feels that way is because your amazing brain, yes, I see awkward, yes, that's right, uncomfortable every time. Thank you guys for sharing. Yeah, and the reason for that is that your brilliant, beautiful brain does not like change. What does it like? It likes habits. It likes to run on these automatic programs, mostly unconscious programs, so that it doesn't have to like spend energy or glucose to do something that's new or different, to create a new program. Yeah, so that's why it can be very awkward, which is why our brain prefers to run on these automatic programs so that we can preserve energy for our higher brain, our conscious mind, to make decisions sometimes when we need it to in the moment, right? So we can focus on what we want. So when we go through a change, many of us experience a lot of distress, yes? And when I worked at Lee Hecht Harrison, as Jessica mentioned, which is an outplacement firm, I coached hundreds of people that were in job transition. And I noticed that some of them landed pretty quickly. Relatively speaking, in the market in those days, they landed quickly, and some of them did not. Some of them really struggled. And they had a really hard time. So you might be wondering, well, what's the difference between the two groups? Like, why do some people tend to adapt really quickly and easily, even if they may not have like the perfect resume or the perfect LinkedIn profile? Like, what is it about them? And some people tend to really struggle. And so you may think that the real difference is that they have the right strategy. Yes, those people that land quickly, they know the right strategies and they take action. Yes, they do all the stuff they need to do, and that equals success. But what I learned from working with all those people is that it's not just strategy, first of all, because everybody had access to the same resources. In fact, you have access to pretty much everything that you want to know about a job transition at your fingertips, yes? Whether it's going to the Career Connectors blog or watching these kind of webinars, or accessing how to do anything from networking to, writing the perfect cover letter or whatever it is that you want to do. So it's not just strategy. And it's also not just execution, because I saw many, many, many people, perhaps like you, that would spend hours a day doing all the right stuff. Yeah, they would apply to all the jobs, they would customize their stuff, they were very targeted, they would, really practice for their interviews. Maybe they got coaching and mentoring through Career Connectors or something else, but yet they still struggled. So it makes you wonder, what is the real key? What is the real key to landing your next job? Because when you're at a place where you're doing everything you can and you're just not getting the results, right? Or especially when you don't hear back from people, right? How many of you might be experiencing that? I hear that a lot from people in career transition. Like, I just don't hear back, right? I was told, that there's going to be a next step, and there's, I keep following up, and, it just kind of makes you want to put your head in the sand and just kind of go away, right? Like, it's just, it can be a very difficult place to be. And then we start telling ourselves all kinds of ridiculous stories, right? Stories that make us feel a certain way, right? They kind of make us feel sometimes like this, yeah? Like we're not good enough. Like we're not good enough to get the jobs. And, that's not true at all. What we know is that those are just false stories. They're not true at all. So what is the real key to landing your next job with ease, and as quickly as possible? Well, I was very curious about this myself. So this is when I began to study. As Jessica said, I studied a bunch of things. And what I learned from all those trainings and all of my conversations with clients is that the real difference between those who land quickly and those who don't is their mindset. It is their mindset. And in a few moments, you're going to learn what a mindset actually is, where your mindsets come from, how they impact your results, and how you can play what I call the mindset game to get even better results. So what we know is that when you shift your mindset, you will get completely different results. And I've seen this over and over and over again in my career. So let's dive right in. A mindset is a belief. A mindset is a belief. A belief is a feeling of absolute certainty about something, where you believe something to be so true. You might not even know why you believe it to be true, but you've told yourself a story enough times over and over and over again in your mind, often unconsciously, that you have trained yourself to believe. You've conditioned yourself to believe that that thought is actually true, when in reality it might be completely false or even absurd. So let me share a quick example. So one of my clients had a business, and she wanted to grow the business. And one of the things that she knew she needed to do is to network more. Yes, I know you all know how important networking is in career transition. And yet there was something, like there was some resistance where she just didn't feel comfortable networking events. She didn't want to go. She would continue to kind of self-sabotage, and there would always be an excuse, or when she would go, she wouldn't feel comfortable. And when she really got down to it, to what is the story that she's telling herself, the mindset, the habitual thought went like this: I'm not interesting enough. A part of her believed that she is not interesting enough, that she's kind of boring, and that when she goes to these events, people are not going to want to talk to her. Yeah. So her brain associated pain with networking events, because she thought, people are going to see me in a certain way. And so, of course, her mind, wanting to protect her, to keep her safe, would limit her ability to access thoughts that would, keep her motivated to go to these events. So you can see that we have all kinds of thoughts, and many of those thoughts are not even true. So just ask yourself, what am I holding myself from right now in the lens of this job transition? And what is the story that I'm telling myself? Maybe you also have a story of not being good enough in some way, right? And of course, there are many different versions of that. Not, feel free to reject this, of course, if it doesn't land, right? Not credentialed enough, not experienced enough, not young enough, not old enough, right? Not whatever enough. Yeah, it's very, very, very common. And the reason we have these thoughts is because our mind is wired for negativity. Did you know that you have 5 networks in your brain that deal with threat and danger? Yeah, all the stuff that our body just wants to move away from, relative to 1 network for positivity and reward. And that's how we humans have survived as long as we have in our world. Yes, by looking out for danger, by judging, ourselves and others. So we tend to tell ourselves these, negative story. We have these automatic negative thoughts, what we would nickname ants, right? Automatic negative thoughts. So this is where the mindset game comes into play, because when you are even more clear about what you want and you are focused on more empowered thoughts, on kinder thoughts for yourselves and others, then you're going to be able to access the path of least resistance. So what do I mean by that? So imagine as if, right, metaphorically speaking, right, we were all dumped into this big maze when we were born, right? This like life-size maze that has all the typical maze-like things, right? Twists and turns and dead ends. And we can't see more than just a few feet ahead of us. We don't know when our next job is going to land or what company or what industry. We don't know yet, right? We're not holding it in our hand, so to speak. Right? So we're in this maze and it can feel very scary, right? All those words that we saw at the beginning, right? And confusing. We don't know, do I go right? Do I go left? What do I do? But when you play the mindset game, and I'm going to guide you on some simple principles for doing that, you will be able to feel your way into the next right step and the next right step. So it's kind of similar to this game that some of you may have played when you were little, called the hot and cold game. This may sound familiar, right? It's that fun game that we played where there would be like a hidden treasure, right? So just like a hidden treasure in the maze and we don't know where it is, right? But our friends would give us all kinds of clues on where to find it, right? So, you'd know that you're like walking towards what you want when you get instructions like, hey, you're getting warm, getting warmer, you're boiling hot, right? And then you know that you're getting really close to that thing that you're looking for, right? That you can't see. Or on the other hand, when you get instructions like you're getting cold, colder, freezing cold, right? Then you know you're moving away from what you want, right? And what do you do when you get those instructions? You're like, well, you're not going to keep moving away from what you want. You're going to be like, okay, right? I'm getting colder, right? You're going to notice that guidance. You're going to listen to that guidance. And what are you going to do? You're going to turn around in the other way, right? You're going to change your direction, the direction of your thoughts, the direction of your emotions or your behavior. And you're going to move warmer and warmer and warmer towards what you want. So that's the essence of this game, this mindset game. At any moment, right, in the maze, you're either moving towards what you want or away from what you want. And you know the difference by tuning into how you feel. So you absolutely do create your future through your habitual thoughts, emotions, and actions. And how does that work? So when I tell myself something enough times, like my client that told herself, I'm not interesting, maybe something happened at some point. Most of our beliefs, are really anchored when we're between the ages of 0 to 6 or 7, right? Very, very young age. And so at some point she made some lousy decision, right? And her brain didn't want her to do anything new or different. Remember how awkward it was to sign your name with the other hand? Yeah, so her brain didn't want to create a new program, so it stuck with it. And she put on a pair of glasses that went like this, right? I am not interesting. And her brain would just give her all kinds of evidence to validate that lousy belief, right? So all she could access was thoughts that were aligned with the lousy belief. And then when she had those thoughts, right, she would get all kinds of emotions. Yes, her limbic system would release all kinds of chemicals that would make her feel the way that she was thinking. So if she's thinking, I'm not interesting, right? And she's got this opportunity to go to a networking event, her body's going to feel what, right? Uncomfortable. It's going to feel like, like it doesn't want to do it, right? It wants to run away from that. And then of course, that's what she's going to do, right? She's going to self-sabotage or procrastinate. How many of you procrastinate during your job search? Yeah. So we do create a reality because our actions dictate our results, right? No brainer. When you take aligned actions, consistent, massive actions, yes, you're going to get better results than when you don't, of course. Now, some of you might be thinking, Vera, this is way too simple. Come on. Like our thoughts create our reality. Come on. Really? Yes, really. And we know this from research. In fact, not just do your thoughts impact how you feel in your own body, right? Because all those emotions, all those chemicals in your body make you feel a certain way, right? Like tense or, or relaxed, for example. But those thoughts and feelings also get radiated outside of your body. Yes, this is real. Did you know that there is this like field of energy around your body, what we call an electromagnetic field that's kind of made up of all your thoughts and emotions? They are real things, and we can measure how you feel with spectral analysis up to about 10 feet in diameter around your heart, around your body. Yeah. So how you think and feel gets radiated out. That's why, when you're in an interview and you might feel nervous or something like that, it's really important to self-regulate your emotions, to use tools like the quick coherence technique that you learned. By the way, it's also in your handout, when you want to do it again, right? Why? Because that's going to allow you to project a different energy out into the field that other people, like your interviewers, will be able to tune into, so they will feel more ease. Yeah. And they will just trust you more. And they'll feel more comfortable with you, and they'll want to hire you. So this is not new news. All the greats in history knew that your thoughts create your reality. That's the one thing they agreed on, right? Gandhi has a very awesome quote, right? A man is but a product of his thoughts, right? Think about it. Your habitual thoughts are your beliefs, right? What he thinks, he becomes. It's your mind's job to create coherence between what you expect to see in the world through that lens, yes, that you put on, and what you actually experience. Napoleon Hill, whatever your mind can conceive, yes, what you can imagine for yourself, when you believe it, you can achieve it. Why? Because there's this integration. Because what you want at a head level and what you believe at a deeper heart level. Yes, your conscious and unconscious mind are working together to help you to create your best results. So how do you win the game? Well, think about the hot and cold game, right? You find what you're looking for, but it's more than that. It's finding what you're looking for with ease, with less stress, right? We all know we can eventually get a job, right? But the point is, how are we feeling in the process of it? How quickly is it, right? How are we feeling in our body? So the objective is to consciously create your future, because we're playing the game all the time. I mean, you're thinking lots of thoughts, around 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. That's what the average person thinks, right? So clearly you got thoughts all day long. You got emotions all day long. Yes, you are creating your reality all day long, but some of you might not be doing it consciously. So let's teach you how to do it more consciously, right? How to give more positive instructions to your mind so that you can move warmer and warmer and warmer, right? And so that you can notice when you're getting colder, yes, when you're moving away from what it is that you want, so that you could change direction and move towards your goals with more ease. So it's very simple. When you think negative thoughts, for example, right? Negative thoughts like I'm not good enough, or maybe I'm not worthy, or, this is, going to be tough to find this job. It's going to take a long time, or I don't know what to do, or, all that kind of stuff. All of those thoughts are sending a certain instruction to your limbic system, to the chemical brain, to send certain chemicals into your body. And when you're feeling those distressing emotions, those negative emotions, you're not coherent. There's an incoherent signal going from your heart up to the thalamus in your brain, which controls all your awesome executive functions. So guess what? You're not thinking clearly in those moments. You're not making the best decisions, and you certainly don't have access to your heart's intuitive guidance. So for example, and some of you might be resonating with these on some level. If you feel any pain around these, it means that there's something there, right? Like I'm not good enough. That's a universal belief, right? Or maybe it's hard, or what if I succeed, or what if I fail? Right? I'll give you an example, a quick example from yesterday. I had a client that, her mindset was that she's not worthy of being seen or heard. So that was holding her back in her business because she's kind of keeping herself small. It's also impacting her weight, because anytime she loses a certain amount of weight, right, her body's like, she starts to get feedback. Oh, you're looking good. You're losing some weight. Her body's like, nope, right. And then it goes right back to the old weight. Why? Because her body doesn't feel that it's safe, because she told herself at some point, I'm seen and unheard. And one of the core experiences for her was when she was very little and she wanted to go with her mom somewhere. And her mom says, you can come with me, but you can't talk. Yeah? So I can't be seen, I can't be heard. And so her mind is giving her instructions to maintain that, and it's holding her back. So when you tell yourself a lousy story like that, you give your mind an instruction to move you away from what you want. So a good example of this, another example of this, is a client of mine that had a belief that he's not good in math. Some of you may have that belief. Of course, it's just a lousy belief. When he was in the 3rd grade, Mrs. Gilmore, his math teacher, used to ridicule him. So he made a decision, right? Not knowing any better, I'm not good in math. And then that limited his ability to access thoughts or ideas that were, requiring him to know math. And that held him back in his career because he didn't even explore options that required him to do that. But once he released that belief, as you're about to learn how to do, and he started telling himself different stories, he was able to access new ideas, like the fact that he wanted to be a physical therapist. And he wrote me an email, a text about a year after that. And he said, you know what, Vered, I aced all my math classes, right? And he's now a physical therapist. So you can see it's just a bunch of BS. It's just a belief system. So notice your thoughts, because when you tell yourself something enough times, it does get anchored in your brain, but your brain is malleable. No matter how long you've told yourself a certain story, right? Your brain is plastic. We call it neuroplasticity. It can change and grow as you change the thoughts that you tell yourself. You can recondition your mind, right? You can tell yourself, absolutely, I can do whatever it is that I want to do. And when you do it with emotion, in a coherent state, your body will listen and you will reprogram those old programs, right? And all of a sudden you'll believe, yes, I can do this. Absolutely, I'm good enough, right? It is possible for me. Right? Every day in every way, I'm getting better and better and better. So when you tell yourself those empowering stories, you get really positive hormones like DHEA, which is a vitality hormone, into your body. Yes, that allows you to access the right decisions, right? Should I call this person back, or should I apply for this job or not? You're going to be able to make those decisions with more ease. Yes, because your body's feeling safer during a transition. Another quick example, Michael Jordan, you may know that he wasn't the star basketball player always, right? He was actually cut from his high school team. But he didn't say, oh, that means it's not, for me, this whole basketball thing. No, right? He got clear about what he wanted. He believed it was possible. He conditioned himself, right, through repetition, right, telling himself these more empowering stories over and over and over again. He conditioned himself to believe that absolutely it is possible. And then he accessed ideas like getting up early in the morning, right, to do the things he wanted to do. And of course, we all know that he achieved his goal. And that's what you will experience as well when you tell yourself, right, you're going to know I can and I will. Right? Some of you already have very empowering stories, of course, because here you are in a session like this, right? You get up this morning and here you are learning these things. So clearly you have a more empowered mindset. So for these next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper to kind of give you 4 guidelines as to how to play the game. So there are some kind of rules to the game, some of which we've already mentioned, but we're going to kind of allow you to have that even more clearly now. Number 1, you gotta know what you want and why you want it. You need to be targeted. Then you gotta listen for the clues, right? Think about it. If I don't know I'm getting colder, if I'm moving away from what I want, how will I ever redirect, right? So you gotta know where you are in the maze, and I'm gonna guide you on how to do that. And when you're getting colder, what are you gonna do, right? Clearly you wanna get warmer, right? Because you want to achieve what you want to achieve. And you do that by tuning into your thoughts, your emotions, and your behavior, and adjusting those, shifting and resetting. And of course, to keep moving, right? Because it's just a matter of time until you achieve what you want. So rule number 1, what do you want, people? Ask yourself, what do I want? What does my heart really desire? You got to make that decision, because if you don't, your unconscious mind doesn't really know how to help you, right? Think about the metaphor of buying a home, right? Or renting a home, right? If you don't know what you want, you may end up seeing hundreds and hundreds of houses, that are available on the MLS, but right, it's just going to waste all your time and energy. So the more targeted you are, right? Let's say in the, analogy of the buying a home, right? I want a cul-de-sac. I want 4 bedrooms. I want a fireplace, right? And it would be nice to have, right, an extra bathroom. It would be nice to have, this neighborhood or whatever. Right? Then your brain can help you because it knows what you want, and it can help you to access those ideas and thoughts that will be aligned with what it is that you want to create, so that you can land your job with more ease. Because that powerful part of your mind, what we call the subconscious or unconscious mind, all those things that are below your conscious awareness, they really, really do impact how you think, how you feel, and how you behave. In fact, it's been said that over 95% of everything that you think, feel, and do is from that automatic unconscious program. Remember we said earlier when you signed your name in the opposite hand? We do that because the more that your brain can automate, the more that it can preserve energy. Yet your conscious mind has very, very limited resources. The real powerhouse in your body is your heart. What we know from research is that when you make most of your decisions, they are made at a heart level. Yes, emotionally. They're made at a heart level. The information travels up your autonomic nervous system to your brain, where it becomes conscious to you, and then you get a body response. So what does that mean? It means that you want to tune into your emotions, right? Because then when you can tune into your emotions and shift and reset using tools like the quick coherence technique, you're going to be able to send a different signal up to your brain to be able to make an even better decision, because your subconscious mind is like a goal achieving machine, right? Think about that client that felt, the client yesterday that, that she's not worthy of being seen, right? Her unconscious mind helps her, right? Like a servo mechanism to always go back to what she expects to see in the world. Yes? So unless she changes the mindset, she will always recreate the same pattern. So you got to give clear and positive instructions. This is what I want, and this is why I want it, because you can only perceive what you focus on. So there are many, many things happening in your world, but you're only conscious of a very small fraction of them. In fact, only 40 bits per second out of millions. Think about the metaphor of buying a car. You decide you want to buy a car, and then what do you see on the road the next day? You start seeing that car, right? So it's not that those cars were not there yesterday. You just weren't conscious of them. They weren't part of your 40 bits per second. You deleted them out. And the same thing goes with job opportunities. There might be a job right there in front of you, but you might not be able to perceive it through your 5 senses if you're not clear about what you want and you don't release the resistance to it. So it's really important to be targeted. What do I want? Of course, to the best of your abilities. And most importantly, how do I want to feel when I land? So you say to yourself, how will I know that I landed right in the right job? What am I going to feel? What am I going to see? What am I going to hear? Right? You really want to kind of tune into that, because the more specific you are, as you practice coherence, you will be able to get ideas like, oh, I should call that company today. I should go on, social media and research that. I should go to the grocery store and pick up some milk. And then you happen to meet somebody in line that is going to help you to, connect you to some opportunity. That's how it works. And it's not an accident. It's the fact that you're radiating that energy, that vibration out into the field. When you don't decide what you want, your subconscious mind is going, hey, I really want to help you. I just don't know what you want. Or maybe you want multiple things. Decide what you want and I'll help you. So you can ask yourself, what's most important to me in the context of my career? Prioritize it, right? Decide what's most important, and then you'll be able to access ideas that align with it. So this is one of your challenges. I want you to grab a piece of paper, not now, of course, but at the end of the session, right? At the end of this event, and say, okay, in the context of my career, what do I want and why do I want it? What's most important to me? What are those values? And make sure that whatever decisions you make, that they align with those values, because you are more likely to be fulfilled when you do. So rule number 2, listen for the clues, right? So we're not necessarily going to have people shouting in our ears, apply for that job or don't apply for that job. But what are we going to get? We are going to get our heart's intuitive guidance. Yes, because anytime we feel an emotion that does not feel good, that is an indication that we need to get coherent, right? To practice that quick coherence technique and tune in to what's right for us. It means that we're moving away from what we want. Because when we are feeling those negative emotions or thinking those negative thoughts, we project that out. Yes, and we're limiting the possibilities that come our way. So take your emotional temperature, just like we did at the beginning of our session. How am I feeling right now? Do that multiple times a day, 3 to 4 times a day, and then get coherent, right? Focus your attention in your heart, activate a positive feeling, get coherent again. You will be even more productive, and you will know which direction you're facing, right? So you gotta tune into your emotions. It's like your internal GPS, right? Which way to go. So you know that you're moving away when you experience a negative emotion. You know that you're moving towards when you experience a positive emotion, because you're able to think of the best thoughts. Yes, you're able to be in the best state physically and neurologically, right, to get the ideas and follow those ideas. So it's very simple. It's really about tuning into how you feel, self-regulating your emotions so that you can continue to move towards what you want. Now, if you want more details about some of the things that I'm sharing with you today, I have a podcast called The Mindset Game. And you will get even more specific tools on how to self-regulate your emotions, how to identify your limiting beliefs, and how to shift them. But remember, any change is going to involve some depleting emotions. That's normal. You can expect it. But what we want to do is to self-regulate our emotions so we don't get into a situation where, we're at an interview or at a networking event, and because we haven't self-regulated our emotions, we're not tuned in to the fact that we're colder right in the moment, that we're not feeling confident or ease. And then what happens is that incoherent signal can actually block us from saying the right things in an interview, projecting the right energy. Some of you might have experienced what we call cortical inhibition, that you just blink, right? You planned all this stuff and you just go blink. And that's just because of your physical state. And you can avoid that by practicing the tools that you're learning. So the challenge is asking yourself multiple times a day, how am I feeling? How am I feeling? Multiple times a day. And then when you notice that you're feeling a depleting emotion, change direction. So how do you do that? You change the only 3 things that you can change: your own thoughts, your emotions, and your behavior. How do you change your thoughts? Well, you kind of do what my client did, right? What's the story I'm telling myself? Right? Like what is the story, right? I want this, but, right? I want to land this job, but what completes the but, right? And then you'll notice all the worries and fears and doubts, and then just challenge that thought, right? Because it's just a thought that you created at some point in your life, but it's not even really true. Ask yourself, is this really true? Like without a shadow of a doubt. How do I even know it's true? Where did this come from? And then once you begin to dissolve that program by challenging it, focus on a new, better story. What can I tell myself that's even more empowering? I am worthy. I am enough. I got this. Right? And when you do that, you get a different set of chemicals into your body, you get more coherent, and then you're able to access the right thoughts, take those actions to get what you want. So you say to yourself, what would it take for me to move towards what I want? Remember, you can change your emotions with the quick coherence technique. Do that multiple times a day. Right? There's no reason for you to feel depleting emotions during a change. You can manage your state no matter what is happening, no matter how difficult things are, and practice that at least 3 times a day to really give your body a chance. And then change your behaviors. Of course, no brainer, right? Take those consistent actions, but it will certainly be much easier for you to do when you are more coherent, when you're kinder to yourself and others, because you'll be able to access the path of least resistance and then just keep going. Right? You might have heard this 1,000 times. Don't give up. This is absolutely true. Be persistent. Be resilient. Right? Use the tools that you're learning today and keep moving, because you will find that treasure in the maze. We know without a doubt a new mindset always leads to new results. The question is, are you playing the game deliberately? Are you more conscious about what you are thinking and feeling and how you are behaving? When you are, then you can use the tools to adjust, change direction, and move towards what you want more consistently. So these rules are available to you in the handout. There are also some podcast episodes, the earlier ones that I have on the Mindset Game, that will give you even more detail, much more science than I could in a short session like this, because you can absolutely break through any limiting thought, any limiting emotion, no matter how long you've thought it. You absolutely can. You can rewire it. We know that from science. And when you do that, you will find what you are searching for, whether it's in your career, your health, or in any area of your life. And you're going to do that with ease and joy, because you're not alone. Remember that quote: when you want something, the universe conspires to help you achieve it. Your job is to tune into how you feel as best as you can, and keep moving. So thank you for your attention today. If you want even more, feel free to check out the Mindset Game podcast. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. When you do, I'll send you a free course on mindset. This is what CEOs, I use for CEOs to help them to build their businesses or cut through any limiting pattern that might be holding them back. Happy to share that with you free of charge. Just connect with me and send your email address. I'll send you a free code for that. And I have a Facebook group called The Mindset Game. And if you go to the mindsetgamegroup.com, it is a private group, happy to let you in, and I share posts every day to help you stay motivated and moving towards what you want. So pure pleasure. Thank you all.
Thank you, Vered. Fantastic content as always. Thank you for walking us through a shortened version of your program, and we really appreciate it. And hopefully many of you on the line today were able to benefit from what Vered shared today.